Hey there. Today I'm going to review the Wizard and the Tank of the Black Order with Ebony Maw and Black Dwarf. My name is Nate, and welcome to the Gamers Guild. Do you enjoy a small team of powerhouse models? How about the ones that all have a built-in defensive ability that works both against attacks and throws? How about characters that can throw things that are size 4? And if that doesn't cut it, how about attacks with 8 dice? Well, do I have good news for you and Thanos' Black Order, because Ebony Maw and Black Dwarf are the latest 2 powerhouse members that will soon join the game of Marvel Crisis Protocol. Both of these characters look like they are going to be quite strong once they are on the table, and they should be since this expansion has 9 points of threat between the 2 of them. Let's start with the scary one, Ebony Maw. He has the alter ego of Ebony Maw and has 7 stamina, moves medium, is size 2, and has a threat rating of 5. His defenses seem a little lackluster here at the start with only 2 physical and 2 energy defense, but he makes up for it with a whopping 6 mystical defense. His first attack is Mystic and is called Black Tongue. Thankfully we know this isn't a Wet Willy situation because it is range 4, and has a strength of 5 and a power cost of 0. No matter what, Maw will gain 1 power after the attack is resolved, and on a wild, the attack gains Sinister Influence. This will allow you to advance the target character short, which gives him a little bit of control. His next attack is where things get really nasty though. Herald of Doom is also Mystic and has a range of 4, but it has a strength of 8 for the power cost of 4. This attack also has the especially nasty bit of text that the target character does not gain power for damage dealt by this attack on an 8 dice mystical attack. Anyways, as well on a wild, the attack gains a throw if the target character is size 2 or less, but interestingly it is after the attack is resolved instead of before. So thankfully those are his only attacks, but that just means we get to dive into his superpowers. His first one is an active superpower named Telekinetic Powerhouse. It has a power cost of 3, but for that power, Maw will get to throw an interactive terrain feature of size 4 or less that is within range 3, and then be able to throw it long. So, like MODOK, but now you can suddenly throw that garbage truck in the distance for 5 incoming damage, which, you know, seems kinda good. His next superpower is reactive and is called Mind Over Matter. For 2 power, Ebony Maw does his best Captain America impression and allows for him to use his mystical defense to defend or dodge whenever he is targeted by an attack or has to make a dodge roll, which, as a quick reminder, is 6 dice. And thanks to his next superpower, we know he will have the power for it. Incredible Psychic Potential is an innate superpower that will give Maw an additional 2 power during the power phase. And finally, Ebony Maw also has the innate superpower of flight, and he can bear the Mind and Space Gems. We already know what the Mind Gem does, but as a reminder, it costs 1 threat, and for 2 power, its wielder can make an enemy character within range 3 advance short once per turn. And we also have just had the Space Gem revealed. For 2 threat, it can be equipped to Ebony Maw and provides a new active superpower. Maw can spend 2 power to place himself or a friendly character that is within range 3 and place it within range 2 of its current position. As with most other movement effects in the game, it can only be used once per turn. Before going deeper, it is worth mentioning the big change on the other side of his card, and that is his stamina drops down to 4, making him not quite as fearsome. Otherwise, everything else is the same, so Ebony Maw is a lot to take in. He has a couple of solid attacks that are both mystical. Herald of Doom is especially scary because of its large dice pool, along with that line of text of no power gained from the damage dealt. And while his attacks aren't anything to push aside, I think what has everyone talking is his Mind Over Matter ability. Yes, his throw is strong too, but we know how throws work and we know that they're good, and Maw's thankfully only works on terrain, which limits it a little bit at least. Mind Over Matter gives Ebony Maw a whole lot of staying power, but also puts him in a precarious situation. Do you save power for the incredible defensive boost with Mind Over Matter, or do you want to go in with big attacks like Herald of Doom? His extra power gained from his innate will help with his power hunger, and his strike getting a guaranteed 1 will also be great as a reliable crutch. Not to mention, if you throw a gem on him, he will automatically be generating 4 power a turn. That's more than Hulk. I think the Mind Gem will make Maw an excellent control piece since both of his attacks already have a way to move enemies off of objectives, and the Space Gem will give him a nice support aspect. So let's look at some pros and cons. The pros are pretty straightforward. If he has enough power, he will be hitting hard between his long throw and his big attack, and he has a defense that is able to roll a fantastic number of dice. And as I just mentioned, he can make an excellent control piece if he has one of those gems attached. And his defensive ability works on dodges, which isn't seen too often and is quite nice to have in his repertoire. On the downside, Maw is going to want to have power to use his defensive ability, but to also reach his full potential on offense, he will want to be using Herald of Doom and his throw. If he runs out of power though, his defenses are along the lines of Hulk, but not backed up with that 20 stamina. So his first con is power management, which can be helped out a little bit, and I'll talk about that in a second. But the other thing I want to point out as a blind spot for Maw are characters that have multi-attacks. Agent Widow with her automatic pistol only rolls 4 dice, but 4 dice twice into Ebony Maw becomes problematic because it isn't really worth mind over mattering each of those attacks. In the same way, characters with Flurry like Valkyrie, Okoye, and Corvus Glaive will all be able to chew through Ebony Maw's power reserve quite quickly. On the other side, models that don't have a multi-attack like Core Widow or Captain Marvel, he should be able to handle pretty well. Also, any character that is this power hungry really wants to try and avoid stun, or else Maw will find him in a bad spot quickly. Looking at affiliations, unfortunately we still don't know what Thanos will bring to the table for the Black Order, but we know that Maw will enjoy being in the Avengers to save a power each turn for his defensive ability. The Cabal will similarly help Maw with his power problems. And being a 5-threat character, being able to remove a status condition would be, well, a godsend with the Asgardians. With as many dice as he's rolling on offense or defense, he wouldn't mind having those rerolls from the Guardians. The one affiliation that I don't think he fits into as neatly is Wakanda. Maw won't always have that power to spare, and when he does, he would probably want to save it for another mind over matter. I say this because for 1 power, you can reroll 1 dice with Wakanda, which is nice, but if you save that power for 2 power, you get to roll 4 extra dice on defense. If Maw ends up being able to hold on to his power better than I am thinking, then maybe he could benefit more from it than what I'm expecting. All in all though, Maw is going to be either tough to remove from the board or removing your pieces from the board, and if you don't play against him right, he can probably be doing both. But speaking of characters that are hard to remove from the table, let's talk about the tank that is Black Dwarf. He has the alter ego of Black Dwarf. He has 6 stamina, moves short, but he is on a 65mm base, so his move is really on average with everyone else. He is size 4 and only 4 threat. His physical defense is 4, while his energy and mystical defenses are at 3. His first attack is Axe Strike. It has a range of 2, a strength of 6, and a power cost of 0. After the attack is resolved, Black Dwarf will gain power equal to the damage dealt. His other attack is also physical, and it is called Brutal End. For 4 power, you get a range 3 attack with 8 strength, and on a wild, you get to give out the best status condition in the game with Stagger. He also has a variety of superpowers. The first is Black Fury. It is an active superpower that costs 3, but it allows Black Dwarf to throw a terrain feature or enemy character of size 4 or less that is range 2 from him medium. This is the same throw that both Thor and Hulk have on them, so, that seems good too. His next power is also active and is called Enforced Oblivion. It costs 2 power and an action. In return, Black Dwarf can make a move action, and then the next attack he makes during this activation adds 2 dice to its attack roll. There isn't a limit of once per turn here, but unless you find a way to give him a 3rd action, you really shouldn't try to use it twice. His next power is a reactive one called Intimidating Presence. For 2 power, Black Dwarf gets to do a new variant of Bodyguard. It says when an enemy character within range 2 of Black Dwarf targets another allied character, notice the lack of range requirement to that allied character from Black Dwarf, he can use this superpower. This character becomes the target of the attack regardless of range and line of sight. I really like this ability for a few reasons, one of which is his next superpower, Invulnerable Skin. Whenever Black Dwarf would suffer damage from an enemy effect, reduce that amount by 1 to a minimum of 1. As if that wasn't enough, there is one change on his injured side, and that is his stamina goes up to 8. So Black Dwarf specializes in 2 things, hitting hard and getting hit hard. He He has as much stamina as Thor or MODOK, but then adds invulnerability effect on top of that, reducing damage very consistently. His take on the bodyguard ability is also really cool because it allows him to march across the board to contest a different objective while still protecting your other characters. Not to mention how thematic it is for the lumbering beast to make attacking his allies not a priority when he is too close. The pros and cons on him are pretty straightforward, and I already went over the pros. He can take hits very well, and he can deal out hits very well, especially with Enforced Oblivion. And his other superpowers also help both aspects of what he is wanting to do. But our lumbering tank does have one pretty big weak point, and that is range/mobility. Black Dwarf does have one range 3 attack, which helps this a little more, but one of the biggest weaknesses of any character that moves short are pushes and throws. And with more and more characters getting access to a throw or push that either doesn't care about size or is size 4, is going to hurt a character like Black Dwarf. One of the first things that comes to mind is Shuri versus MODOK. It isn't about Shuri getting damage on MODOK, it's about Shuri making MODOK have to waste an action to move back into range to do attacks and superpowers. And MODOK has a range 4 attack. Hulk also has this problem, but his Gamma Leap helps mitigate it a little bit. Black Dwarf also will have this problem because of his lack of range and lack of mobility options. Enforced Oblivion is nice since it seems likely that he will have to move and attack a decent bit of the time, and getting some value there is great. But by keeping Black Dwarf out of the fight with throws and pushes, it's gonna hurt him a lot. Really, out-of-turn movement abilities are going to be quite helpful in keeping Black Dwarf relevant and dangerous on the tabletop. So, Maw with a Space Gem, maybe Red Skull in the Cabal, or maybe a tactic card that I will talk about in a moment. With that in mind, let's look at affiliations. Personally, I think Black Dwarf could do quite well in the Cabal. The movement from Red Skull is very beneficial, and since he has a lot of things that cost power, his attacks getting him one more back would also be quite nice. In the same vein, the Avengers reducing the cost of his throw or movement superpowers would be nice, but he would really appreciate the reduction on his Intimidating Presence superpower. I think any of the other affiliations will do right by him, but none stand out as fantastic like the Avengers or Cabal. Well, that at least stands true until we see what Thanos brings to the table. Really, these two will play quite nice together if Black Dwarf can semi-bodyguard Maw to save him some power, while Maw teleports Black Dwarf forward with the Space Gem. Now granted, at that point we are looking at 11 threat for 2 models, which is extremely expensive and probably not what you want to be running. But who knows what the Black Order will be wanting to do once we see what the Mad Titan brings to the table. And even before that, we do get to have a look at some of the support pieces the Black Order has in terms of tactic cards that Ebony and Dwarf come with. The first one is simply Shh, and it is as terrifying as it should be. It is an unaffiliated reactive tactic card, but it does require Ebony Maw to play it. It says when an enemy character within range 5 of an allied Ebony Maw spends 1 or more power to use an active or reactive superpower, Maw can pay 3 power to play this card. The enemy superpower has no effect and cannot be used again for the rest of this turn. But the character still spends the power cost of that superpower and is considered to have used that superpower. I don't think that I need to say this, but it's a really strong card. It has a lot of potential options, but before we dive into those, I do want to clarify a couple things that this cannot do. The first is that if a character uses a superpower like Charge that also has the cost of an action, the action is not spent. This isn't one I would have known, but I asked Pagani and he confirmed it that it doesn't take an action. The other thing is that this card cannot cancel any reactive or active abilities that do not cost any power. Both Loki's God of Mischief and the Root Special Condition specify that it doesn't make a superpower cost 1 more, but rather that a character must pay 1 before using an active or reactive superpower. So, can't be used to stop Hela from reviving herself. However, it can be used to stop so many other pivotal plays. If Maw positions himself in the middle of the board on round 1, he can stop any turn 1 charges if that is important. He can also use this as an additional copy of Brace for Impact, canceling a throw superpower. It can also be used to stop defensive plays like taking away Captain America's ability to bodyguard to beat up Hulk, and even nastier is that then Captain America can't use bodyguard for the rest of that turn, which makes a character like Killmonger extremely happy. Maybe this is a turn with no snacks for Venom, maybe no binary for Danvers, and this list can go on and on. This is a really good card, and even in a Maw versus Maw matchup, you can have your Maw take away the other Ebony Maw's extra 4 defense dice from Mind Over Matter. This is going to be a very annoying gotcha card, but it is also something that you can play around trying to bait it out. Anyways, I'm very excited to see the nasty things done and stopped by this card. And while this card has so many options, the next tactic card might even have more possibilities for the Order. Mothership is a Black Order affiliated active team tactic card. 2 Black Order characters may both spend 2 power each to play this card. Place one of the 2 characters not holding an objective token within range 1 of the other character. With as mobile as characters like Corvus and Proxima are in the affiliation, this can very easily turn into Dwarf getting to the front line tactic card. Or even scarier is getting to teleport Thanos into your opponent's lines after Proxima double moves closer to the enemy. Sure, we don't know what Thanos can do yet, but I'm sure a play of turn 1, double move Proxima close to the enemy deployment, turn 2, play advanced R&D giving Proxima that extra bit of power she needs, and then Mothership Thanos or Black Dwarf into your opponent's front line where they still have 2 actions is going to be terrifying. In a more normal situation, this is going to be a great tool to get Black Dwarf's axe to where it needs to be, or maybe even Maw's denial abilities. At the end of the day, this card I think is going to be a must for the Black Order, and I'm very glad to have it in their arsenal. I'm also just really excited to get the Black Order on the table as a whole, and that's without knowing what Thanos' leadership ability is going to be. I am curious, what do you guys think Thanos' leadership ability is? Leave your thoughts down in the comments down below, and as always, thanks for watching, and keep on gaming.